brings us to the Orchestra Nights, the final arrangement of the 24 Nights series. The Orchestra Nights featured conductor and composer Michael Kamen, who famously worked with Pink Floyd and wrote the score for The Wall. You could hear his orchestrations on songs like Comfortably Numb, which are breathtaking and take the song to new heights. And he ended up working with Eric Clapton in, I think, the late 80s on a BBC film series called Edge of Darkness, or The Lethal Edge of Darkness. I forget which it's called. And so they wrote the score together, and Clapton plays guitar on it. But we'll eventually get to that when we get to the actual song. The first song on the Orchestra Nights is Bell Bottom Blues. And Eric kind of says at the intro of that video, we're doing something different, where we're going to be playing my songs with an orchestra arrangement. We just kind of tried this out, so we'll see if it works or if it doesn't work. So he's very, very humble. They didn't really have much rehearsal for it, and it may sound good or it may not work as a collaboration of sorts. So he's very humble and very vulnerable. He's putting himself out there. And he's saying, whatever happens, happens. And what actually happened is miraculous, especially on a song like Bell Bottom Blues. At the beginning of the song, the violins kind of imitate the sound of seagulls. And they're just kind of doing this rising motion, which I believe you would call a glissando, or a gliss for short. And this kind of makes you see things, see images. And that's the power of music. And maybe it has to do with what they're showing in the video. They're showing these kind of like fireworks going off, but it's just an animation. And I picture seagulls when I hear that. What do you guys hear at the intro?
I do too.
Seagulls?
Definitely. Yeah, hearing seagulls, and definitely.
Yeah. Another thing that I really like about this performance is Eric's using a different pickup combination on his guitar. I think he's using the second position. So the first would be the bridge. The second position combines the bridge pickup and the middle pickup. And that kind of gives him a sound that is reminiscent of his sound from Derek and the Dominoes, which is the band where he recorded this song originally on the Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs album. So he's using this second position. Let's see, holding it up. Second position on his Strat. And he must have the treble decently high so that it's brilliant and clear. And it's got this quack to it that his brownie Strat or his blackie Strat would have, even though he's using his lace sensor pickups. These are not lace sensors. These are vintage noiseless. So I'll just demonstrate what that sounds like. So it's got that quack to it that a lot of Fender Stratocasters have in that position. And just hearing that takes you back to that time, or takes you back to listening to that album. And I really like that he did his homework and he knows how to get those sounds and just recreate a vibe for us. So I'm really glad that he did that. I love the string work on this song. I love the horns in the chorus. In the first chorus, there's not really a lot of comping that's happening. And again, comping is when musicians play in between the singing. After a phrase is sung, then someone could get a fill. It could be on drums, bass, guitar, piano, whatever. But in the first chorus of Bell Bottom Blues, there's no vocal comps or any comps, really. The comping begins in the second chorus from backing vocalists Katie Kassoon and Tessa Niles. And they start to sing dramatic vocals as the song progresses. And the first comping that they do is maybe in a lower register. And as the song goes on to future choruses, Katie Kassoon, who's the featured vocalist again, as she was in Wonderful Tonight, she gets to sing these beautiful comps that get more and more dramatic and intense as the song goes on. After a couple of choruses, Eric gets a guitar solo. And speaking of chorus, I think he's using his chorus pedal for this song again. He would use it on earlier songs like Running on Faith, and maybe even in Pretending a little bit. He might have this chorus on a very slow or a low depth, but you can hear it there. It's just a great addition to his sound at that time. Eric's guitar solo is great. It's very fitting and almost reminiscent of the first solo in Running on Faith, where it's just perfect for the song and not showy. And I think that's the only solo on the song. This is more of a showcase for Clapton's voice and the arrangement that Michael Kamen had with the orchestra and how the band plays together. When I spoke with mix engineer Alex Haas, he said that he first mixed the band and got all those levels right, and then he added in the orchestra as an auxiliary instrument, as a lot of mixers do, where they'll mix the core band first and then they'll add the strings as a layer on top, or the strings and the horns. So that was just very cool to hear him do. The second verse, Eric sings, "Once I was strong, but I lost the fight." The way he sings, "But I lost the fight," you see the passion and intensity, and he's singing it as if he were still interested in Patty, and he probably still was at that point, because I think they had gotten a divorce a few years prior. So I'm sure he's thinking about the time that he spent with her and the time before that, because that's the passion that drove him to write these songs. Mm-hmm. So I just love Clapton's vocals on this song. They're extremely passionate. His guitar playing is perfect. Plays for the song, as he always does. And I just love what Katie Kassoon does. It's just soars. She soars above everyone. And she's a legend. 10 out of 10 for me. I would say that it's completely different from the original version. The passion is there on both versions, on the Layla version and the 24 Nights version. And I can't say one is better than the other, because they're both amazing. Brad?
Well, that's an awesome analysis of this track. The second verse, where he does sing that, "Where I lost the fight," you can really feel, and this version of this song in particular is probably one of my favorites. I love Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs version, the recorded version of it. There's such a heartfelt emotive behind the song, and I think he captured it wonderfully on this version of the song. I will note that his guitar solo in this song, I kind of get the impression that he may have started out with it mapped out, like where he was going to go to, but I kind of feel like he just strayed back to typical Clapton land and started to improvise again, and the feel of everything that was behind him musically, he just played so phenomenally on this track. So it's sparing, but there's so much depth there. When I say sparing, like he's not fluttering in furious amounts of notes. There's just so much feel there. Again, this whole 24 Nights, I think Clapton sings wonderfully on. Some of his best vocal performances I've ever heard. And Bell Bottom Blues, it gives me goosebumps hearing this version of it. It still does the same thing as like other versions I've heard of it, but it's one of my favorites, and I gave it 10 out of 10 as well. Andrew?
It's a 10 out of 10 for me too, guys. It's not that much different from the Layla version, to be fair, in my opinion. But remarkably, when I say not much different, it's not too far off the original. But they are different songs, and I think Michael mentioned that as well. I like this version of the song. I think I like the Layla version better. I think I like the Layla version better than this song. So I'm going to give this version 9 out of 10, but only because of that reason.
I know what you're saying. It's hard to, when you're so attached to Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs version, and then you listen to this. But I understand what you're saying there, Andrew, 100%.
But I know that part and parcel of these shows that we do, it's always about the DVD or the album, so in the context of the album. So yeah, so I'm still going to give it 9 out of 10, only because I just there's just something about the song, I think, that just keeps it around that 9 for me. But it's never a skip.
Yeah. All I can say is imagine being part of this live performance, sitting there listening to this from a listener's perspective on the night. It would bring tears to your eyes to hear Bell Bottom Blues the way it was performed. Yeah,
you mentioned that night being pretty historic, and I just want to show. Here's the 8th. I'm not sure if this is the night that they got Hard Times, Bell Bottom Blues, and Edge of Darkness, or if it was one of these. But I search eBay all the time for ticket stubs from the film dates.
Okay, so according to Robert T, the orchestra nights were on the 8th and the 9th. Yeah. And the 10th was the complete show broadcast live on BBC One. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, Eric, when you're rewatching this, we want a remastered version of this, remixed, remastered, with every performance, including Layla, please.
Yeah, that would be nice. I know Peter Blake released a book.
Yes.
With the DVD, and it cost around like $1,000, I think.
Yeah, I'm still saving for it.
I think it's Genesis Publications, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're that boutique company that has the autographed books and all those really nice pictures and stories. And I know a couple of people that have them, but I've never seen the inside of them.
Because you'd have to charge people for a look, wouldn't you, if it's $1,000?
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, the Peter Blake book comes with like a deluxe version of 24 Nights, which has a version of I Shot the Sheriff that someone has on YouTube. If you type in like Bohemia, I Shot the Sheriff, you'll find this performance from 24 Nights that was otherwise unreleased. So that was for, the fans that could afford it. So it's nice that that person shared it with us, because it's a pretty good version of I Shot the Sheriff. So definitely check that out on YouTube. The next song from the orchestra nights is Hard Times.